In this video, I'm going to explain to you why climbing the corporate ladder is a waste of time. Even myself, a career coach who's worked in the finance industry at top banks for over 10 years, working at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and HSBC, I can tell you that the corporate ladder is not something you should be pursuing in terms of focusing on for the long term of your success and financial wealth. Let's go straight into a clip with Kanye West explaining this. So in this clip, we can see from Kanye West, he has worked with many major corporations. He's worked with many major banks that he's mentioned, JP Morgan and so on. He's also worked with Apple, the technology company, Google. He has his own company, CISI, which has worked with Gap and Adidas and Nike and many other major corporations. So what can we learn from him here in terms of how corporations work, some of the pitfalls of a career and working with corporations, which we can all learn from? So we've got about 2 to 3 minutes of listening to Ye, and I'll interrupt and give some useful insight.
When they added what it was to it, but here's a new genre. It's called making your own money genre. And this music is called, like, take that middleman out. Because
to explain what happened recently, he was effectively cancelled. And you can be cancelled from your corporate job too, right? You can have the wrong opinion. Maybe you don't want to get that injection inside of you that they try to force on you. Maybe they have an issue with your opinion. Maybe you're a man, or you don't pander to certain gender or racial demographics, or you don't push various other agendas around climate change and so on. You can be cancelled. You can be fired from your job. And he's saying, you should focus, whether it's on your side hustle, other income sources, so you're independent of the lies that you have to tolerate in the corporate environment, which is very important for everyone out there to do.
they ain't giving us money, they giving us acknowledgement. I don't want your acknowledgement. And I went so far past any level of acknowledgement. I was banished.
So what is he saying about acknowledgement here? Now, when you work a corporate career, typically you're expected to really, and I've seen this at many top major American investment banks, right, without naming names, where you think, oh, they have a big name investment bank, maybe they're going to pay well. But sometimes they think, based on the acknowledgement, based on the prestige of that company, you're going to put up with lower pay, or maybe you get promoted and you have the prestige and the acknowledgement of that higher promotion. You're a vice president, you're a senior vice president in a team working on an investment bank of a major American company. You still don't get the higher pay that you kind of do deserve, which is a bit of a weird environment to be in, but that's what you can have to deal with, right, in the corporate environment. So he's saying here, the acknowledgement and the prestige, that's not equivalent to the money you're making, right? So the money you're making, which can provide and contribute to your freedom from this system that is kind of rigged against you, they think, oh, don't worry about that. We've given you some higher job title. We've given you an award for working here for 5 years, for example. But that doesn't really equate to higher pay, which is really what you want at the end of the day when you're working any job.
Exile. I was canceled multiple times. So what I done had, like, my kids not show up to Sunday service right in front of everybody, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm crying to see my daughter, and all of the usual suspects, the handlers, Dave Chappelle, Meek Mills.
So what he's saying here, he's saying 2 points. When you're dealing with cancel culture, including the work environment or personal issues, the company you're working for is not going to help you. That actively act against your best interest. You could lose your job. You could get suspended from work. You could, be dealing with personal issues like a divorce, which he's been dealing with. The company you're working for is not going to help you. And you should think about how much effort you want to exert at your job when they kind of see you as a statistic in an Excel file. That's what your job title is, or what your role is. You're just a number in an Excel file at the end of the day. So just bear that in mind when you are, going over and beyond for your career, which they might not even value that highly for you, So just bear that in mind. You probably value the company quite highly. They don't value you that highly. And then also in reference to cancel culture, what he's describing, which I just interrupted here, is essentially trying to tell you that, if you have an opinion, even if it's a valid opinion, whether it's about the work environment, workplace culture, or maybe the politicized workplace environment, or any aspect like that, you'd be encouraged to kind of keep your opinion to yourself, which is fine to a certain extent, but also have other opinions pushed on you and being expected to agree with that, right? So he's talking about Dave Chappelle or Meek Mill or Diddy, no Diddy, trying to push their opinions on him and saying that, you know, if you want to be in this inner circle, in that industry, you have to agree with these opinions, or they're going to try and cancel you or push you out or label you as crazy. Now, this can occur in the workplace environment too. So again, keep your opinions to yourself. We know how sensitive and emotional everyone is if you don't agree with their left-wing liberal feminist opinions. So try not to do that in the workplace environment, but also understand, and I've dealt with this personally, this kind of vicious, cutthroat, ruthless environment in the workplace where if you don't agree with someone's opinion and they're in a position of power, you're not sucking up to the right people, that can really work against you. And that's why if you are focused on your career, that's good. You want to make money, you want to be successful, you want to be a productive person, but understand you're not playing a fair game. The game is rigged, and it's rigged against you as an employee, particularly, as I say, if you don't agree with whatever dumb idiot opinions that you're told to agree with. So just bear that in mind. Always look out for your best interest, not the company's best interest. Let's continue listening to Ye.
Citi, all these people aren't in position. Now, for us as celebrities, they got to call and put a leash on them. What are we going to do with Ye? Oh, he delusional. That's the best. Dave, give him a call. Diddy.
Now, what he's explaining here really is the crabs in the bucket mentality you have to deal with in the corporate environment. You have a different opinion. Maybe you're working on a side business. Maybe you're focused on other pursuits. You have different opinions. Maybe you're homeschooling your kids. You're buying some land. You're spending some time with your family, and you're not prioritizing your career. You're looking at any alternative lifestyle choice that doesn't agree with a very narrow opinion that they have in the workplace environment. Maybe sending their kids to expensive public schools, telling their kids to be vegan, thinking that homeschooling your kids is crazy. All these type of ridiculous things, you know, you basically be ostracized or isolated or excluded if you don't play the game in the corporate environment. And that's why when you go to your job, just see it as a place where you're going to make money and mind your business, and keep it professional and keep it to a minimal. And I realize minimal interaction beyond anything work related. What I realized, and what is kind of disappointing about the workplace environment, is that you're expected to, what happens is, you know, hard work in a sense doesn't pay off. It's not really a meritocracy or a competency based hierarchy. You have instead is really a social circle game. You know, you hear all of PUA, red pill type of guys talk about social circle game. You know, you've got to be a popular guy, you know, to get a girl, for example. You got to be, you know, present yourself in a very positive light. You got to be very charismatic and things like that. And one thing you realize about the work environment where you go to work and do productive work, it kind of doesn't pay off. It kind of, in a sense, unless you're in that inner social circle, you're going out for drinks with the right people after work, you're sucking up to the right people. That's how it really works, and I'm sure it works like that in the entertainment industry too, as Ye is describing here. Is kind of an inner circle you're meant to be in, and try to be part of the popular cool kids, even if they're completely wrong.
Give them a call. Tell them like the T-shirt. Tell them like right now the agenda is this is the voting agenda for the celebrities, for the black. Make them do exactly what I'm gonna do. Make them do exactly what Drake would do. And y'all know my stance on this. I want to say something about the number one. What's so good is the fuck you of it. And for everybody that's working at a normal ass job, like a fast food restaurant, or somebody girlfriend that left them for some nigga with more money, or whatever the fuck it is, all nigga want to do is just like pull up in that, so they can pull it right in front of this bitch and be like, fuck you.
What is he saying here? And this is the reason why I picked out this clip to discuss with you today. He's saying that you are in an environment where you're incredibly restricted. What you can say, what you can do, you have to dress a particular way, you have to talk a particular way in the corporate environment typically. Now, if you express views outside of that, you could be cancelled. If you're building on a business on the side, depending on the rules, you could be cancelled. You could lose your job, things like that. He's saying when you make a success for yourself, right, whether it's your side business or any other aspect of life, you kind of want to rub it in the faces of the people you worked with that were kind of looking down on you, that actually had maybe a crabs in a bucket mentality with you, where they didn't want to see you succeed and be different. They saw you as a threat because you were somehow different in some way. You had a game where people who were completely dumb were in positions above you in the corporate hierarchy, and you had to play along with their BS, their nonsense. He's saying, listen, what you want to do is kind of make it in life. And in this example, he's mentioning, buying a car. That's the sound effect he made, skirt, which was, you want to buy a car and, pull up in your expensive car, your Tesla or whatever, in front of your previous employers and managers and bosses and co-workers and say, oh, I've made it. F you, I don't want to deal with you anymore, and I don't have to deal with you. I'm better than you. And I'm personally not a car guy. I'm not expensive cars and watches. It's not my type of personality. But the key point here is what you need to do is see your career as a stepping stone to your freedom, right? So maybe you're working a career, but you're saving up your money to live your life on your own terms. You're saving up your money to do other things that you think are productive, whether it's living abroad, buying, as I say, an off-grid home, or whatever interests you. Always look at it as your career is just a stepping stone to your independence from this collapsing system and society.
I just pulled up on everybody from last year cancellation, like, fuck all you niggas, fuck you, fuck your mom, fuck you, fuck you.
Hey man, was that where the social media, I don't know if it was it a tweet you had put up?
What's that?
With the fuck yous. That is that what you're speaking on when you say, man, I was pulled this way, I was shut down, I was denied, and it feels good to inhale and just say, fuck you,
yes,
fuck you, fuck y'all.
That's what people don't know, that's the exhale.
See, what he's trying to say here is this is working towards, in the sense. I don't think you have to say F you, like literally to your former manager, your former employers, but that's what you're kind of working towards, in a sense, right? Because when you work in the corporate environment, you realize people you're working with who are more senior than you. When you start your career, you think they're super smart, super talented, and then you realize they're kind of there because either they know someone who hooked them up with a role to put them in a position of power above you. They're sometimes completely dumb, as I say, making a lot of mistakes, and you're actually smarter than the people you're working for, or you work harder than them and you know more than them, but you have to kind of be in this kind of weird corporate hierarchy. So what he's saying is you need to work towards your independence, which I completely agree with. Even myself as a career coach, right? I'm not selling you some delusional dream. I'm saying you should definitely focus on making as much money as possible in the finance industry or any other major company you want to work for, any other corporate role. But the whole point of making that money is to get your independence. So you're not trying to make more money to become a managing director and then a more senior managing director. And then before you know it, you're old at retirement age and you're kind of giving your life and your energy and your life force to a company that couldn't care less about you, that just gave you a bunch of fancy job titles. Take the money you work, invest it, save it, run your own business, and live your life free from this very rigged system. Let's continue and finish off the clip with Ye.
The exhale ain't like, I would like to thank, I ain't thankful. It's fuck everyone about this bitch. Like, can't nobody tell me shit. La, 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 la.
Wait, and you got the money, right?
You know what's so cool about that? Because niggas like Aiden Ross had to apologize. Nigga, I was like 2 months from bankruptcy, from like hundreds of millions of dollars, just getting like, raped, Michael Jackson by the people around, like how people was taking Mike's money, Michael Tyson, Michael Jackson, celebrities, Prince, whatever and shit. People, you got new employees, you got all that, and we.
So just to start, what he's saying is, you're dealing with quite extreme circumstances that are kind of rigged against you, and you have to deal with that, right? Just until you get your money right. In, his song "Can't Tell Me Nothing" from about when I was a teenager. I think I was probably 17 or 16 when it came out, and that song kind of it became an anthem for himself, particularly now, even all these decades later, about 15 years later, or for other people. Is what you're trying to do is get your money right. You're not, if you're focused on your career to make money, that doesn't make you like a bad materialistic person. What it makes you is someone who's focused on making as much money as possible to live your life on your terms, And that's why, there's so many lies and manipulations you have to deal with in this society. They'll be like, oh, materialism's bad, consumerism's bad. Yeah, but money is good. Money is not the root of all evil, right? Focusing on your career to make more money is not a bad thing, right? Maybe you don't want to waste your money on unnecessary consumer goods, buying expensive cars and watches that are going to devalue, but making as much money as you can, investing that and saving that so you can live your life maybe at a slower pace later in life is perfectly justified. I don't know how that you could be told that's not a good thing. And for your freedom, so you don't have to wake up every day, put on a suit, go to the office and deal with people you don't like, who you can't really trust. And I think that's an important thing to say here. In the corporate environment, and I think it's a completely unnatural environment. In centuries past, you'd be working with your family members. Maybe you'd be working and running a small clothing shop, a textile manufacturing company, or even in the factories, you'd be around your friends and family in your local community, even in a coal mine or whatever. But now you're in an environment, you're surrounded by people you can't trust. They might be plotting against you. They see you as competition. This is completely unnatural and not a normal environment to be in. And it's quite important for you to consider to what extent you want to participate in that environment for decades and decades and decades. You might want to do it for a bit, save up your money, run up your side business, move to your country of origin. Maybe you're from, I'm ethnically Indian, for example, but I don't have residency there. But maybe you're from India, from Ghana, from Nigeria. You work in the corporate environment in the West, you learn your skills, you save your money, you invest your money, and you live a calm, peaceful life for the second half of your life outside of the West, living your life on your own terms for a much lower living cost and much happier, right? Maybe in a healthier relationship than what you can get in the West with the state of the world right now. So, F careers, which is kind of a summary of what I'm saying here. Your career should only be the focus as far as it facilitates your freedom. So I'll say that again. Your career should only be a focus as far as it facilitates your freedom. So that's an important point we can learn from Kanye right here. So what I'm going to do is give you some other points and tips in this video just in a moment. So just stay tuned to learn more. So Kanye has a bunch of useful, important points for you to learn from. And I just want to add to that, right? Over the long term, climbing the corporate ladder doesn't really pay off, right? Because firstly, if you're pursuing a career and you're looking at the salary bands that you could potentially earn, very few people make it to those top levels. Very few people, there's only a handful of people at major banks that make it to managing director level. And you might think, oh, you're going to be one of those people. But the truth is that most people, unless they suck up to the right people and play the political corporate game, they'll end up at mid-level, mid-management, lower mid-management. So you should think about where you're going to get a salary cap, which means you're not going to see a massive jump in your salary, right? So you'll probably end up at the mid-level. So analyze that when you're considering your potential career path. There's no long-term payoff in a corporate career. Save your money, invest your money, live your life on your own terms, away from this society and away from the corporate environment if you can, by planning for your long term through saving and investments. And then the other thing I wanted to say is there is no job stability, right? There's layoffs, you're hearing about them all the time, particularly in this kind of recession environment, in finance, in tech. That's why it's important for you to invest and save and build your own skill set where you can be self-employed on the side away from the industry you're working in. Maybe you're going to be, if you're working in the finance industry, you can learn how to become a qualified accountant, become a self-employed accountant. If you're working in the tech industry, you can learn how to code, become a web developer, freelance web developer, things like that. Very important to do. And so you can fund your retirement that way because you're not really going to be earning, you don't want to work for until you're 65 and then you get your retirement from your companies that you worked for. And it's not going to be a great life to be depending on that, particularly when it looks like the amount you'll get at the end of the day, it won't be a lot of money. There's no job stability, so don't be too loyal to the company you're working for. You should be loyal to your best interests and jump to a higher salary if you can, rather than waste your time with a company that is undervaluing you. Now, don't have loyalty to the company you're working for because increasingly, companies, they're focusing on short-term roles. They might hire you on a contract basis. You might be working there for 1 to 2 years. You could be working for a company thinking you're going to be there for a decade, and after 3 to 4 years, you find out the corporate culture isn't really great. They're focused on, like I say, different biases that might not work for you. So you need to think about your exit opportunities there. So don't be loyal to a company, be loyal to your best interests. And if you do develop a high skill set, a high qualified skill set, you can effectively become a well-paid contractor. There's people in the finance industry that get paid $400 a day, $600, $800 a day because they're so highly skilled and they built a good skill set. They go and work somewhere. They know everything they need to do about this small part, niche part of finance, and they earn a very high salary from a major bank like Morgan Stanley. So it's something for you to bear in mind. Now that brings me on to my last point. You should see yourself as essentially like a free agent. If you know Coach Greg Adams, he uses the term free agent lifestyle. If you're familiar with American sports in particular, a free agent is someone who is essentially, they're highly skilled, they're highly qualified in the sports industry, and they can demand a high salary from the companies that they're working for. The different teams they're working for, they can negotiate a very high salary. Same thing with maybe some top Hollywood actors, some singers, rappers, things like that, right? So that's how you should see yourself. You're a free agent. Maybe you work in the finance industry like I have. You have other skill sets that you can leverage to higher income on the side. You maybe combine your side hustle skills, your main income skills, and find a way of making that work for you. As I mentioned, becoming a freelance web developer, self-employed accountant, things like that. And that's why you should see yourself as essentially the CEO of your own career, the CEO of your own destiny. Remember what Kanye kind of told us is that winning in the corporate environment now is not becoming a managing director. It's not getting an award for being at a company for 10, 15 years. The winning in the industry right now, or winning in any part of the West, in my opinion right now, is being free. And this is something I'll cover in more detail in future videos, is that what's the point of making money? You're making money so you're free. You're working for a major company, not so they can make money, so you can make money, so you can buy your freedom. You can go and buy some land. You can go maybe homeschool your kids, maybe be in a healthy relationship away from this kind of toxic society. That's what you're trying to do at the end of the day. You know, winning right now is not climbing the corporate ladder. It's not having an imaginary job title and having a little sign on your desk that, oh, you're a vice president or whatever. Winning in this society is getting out of the society in a sense, right? That's what rich people do. They make enough money and they don't have to go and work in this society. Very wealthy people, more wealthy than a managing director at an investment bank. When they make enough money, multi-millions, however that could be defined, I notice what they do because I've been around extremely wealthy people, right? People who never have to work a day again in their life. They manage their investments, take a couple hours a week, not even a day, and then they do what they want. They go, not too far from where I'm at in London. They just spend their time doing water sports on a local river area that we have in London. They spend their time just chilling out, hanging out with their family all day. That's making it in life. Making it isn't going, oh, you know what, I'm going to climb to the next step and then I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the same job with more stress, more work, slightly more money, and be stuck in an office for 8, 12, 14 hours a day, right? Because I noticed something while I was working at a trading floor of a major investment bank. I was working hard, putting a lot of effort in, and I thought, if I keep working hard, I'll be in the same position as my manager is in, making more money than I'm currently earning, but dealing with the same stress and the same BS. And then I looked over at someone who worked who's a sales managing director, trading managing director, who's making significantly more than myself. And I thought, this guy's making, I don't know, we can estimate, they're all multimillionaires, some of these people, right? And I was thinking, this guy, this multimillionaire who has an expensive watch and a big house and a big car or whatever you want to say, he's living the same life as me. We're both in the office, regardless of how different our salary is. We're doing the same kind of thing. I'm in the office, responding to emails, dealing with office politics, dealing with drama and time-wasting people, and the stress, and the big money transactions you've got to deal with. He's kind of doing the same, but is he really in a better position? He just has more wealth. If I was in that guy's position, 40-something-year-old managing director with an expensive watch, house and car, I'd rather have invested that money, had my time freedom, be time free, and live my life on my own terms. Even if I had less, I was in a 1-bedroom apartment, I was living in a developing country. That's really kind of the goal now, right? For myself, for many of you, you're going to work in the industry, whichever industry you're in, save as much as you can, maybe buy a small property for yourself, buy some rental property, maybe make some investments in index ETFs and stocks and so on, and live off the dividends and live off maybe a small side income you have, maybe teaching people or something like that. Really think about the long-term prospects you have, because increasingly in the West, Doing basic things, buying a house, having a family, having a marriage that lasts a long time, having kids that can learn from your values and not be brainwashed by the rubbish in the schools and in society is increasingly unrealistic. So you need to think realistically about your life. And that's what I'm trying to say here is don't get so obsessed with climbing the corporate ladder for the sake of it. Even though, and I'm someone who's telling you who's worked in these companies, who's been around people who are particularly wealthy, you know, someone who, for example, at one of the investment banks early on in my career, they were making significant sums, very high profile guy working in sales and trading. And he had barely any time for his kids. His kids were in a very expensive private school. Who knows what they're learning, what they're doing in their free time, because he's a father who doesn't have time for his kids. He has time for making a lot of money to put them in expensive schools. But once you learn all those type of things, you're like, do I really want to be that guy? Do I really want to be that guy who's like working like 10 to 12 hours in an office around people you can't really trust, who might be trying to backstab you or ruin your career for their own benefit when you're in your late 40s? What are you gaining at that point, particularly for our generation compared to these older guys? Where, like I say, doing the basics, lots of people are going to be working those high-paying jobs and still not being able to afford a house to buy. Does it make any sense? I don't know. And I've seen people, the worst situation you'll see in the finance industry as a man is sometimes you'll see men who are like in their late 40s, early 50s. They might have had a few casual relationships. They don't have kids. They don't own a house. They live in they rent an apartment. They kind of live a very consumerist lifestyle. They're kind of lauded as a successful person in the office because they have a fancy job title, and then they go out drinking, or they're a wine enthusiast, they're a restaurant enthusiast, but they live a kind of meaningless life because the company you work at, the people you work with, they don't care if you live or don't live. They don't care what happens to you in your life. And the legacy you leave behind as a man, I think in this era, is particularly important. That legacy could be your family, it could be your kids. It doesn't have to be that though, because I think, as I say, being able to afford some of those now are a bit unrealistic, I would say, for many people. So it could be your legacy, could be your side business. It could be books you write. It could be some of the experience you have in explaining that to others and helping others grow.